Hello, everyone. Welcome into episode 150. 150. Man, it seems like yesterday we were just starting this podcast, Gus. But we're 150 episodes in here. It's October 7th, 2024. I'm Nick Hill, as always, from Chattanooga, Tennessee, of these United States. And joining me from Americana, Sao Paulo, Brazil, is Gus Tomazeli. Gus, man, 150.
Wow, as you said perfectly, it felt like yesterday that we started this podcast, this project, this initiative, and it's almost gonna be it's like 3 years ago. It felt like it was yesterday, and let's talk football because and sports in general, but more football because what a weekend! I'll say, especially in the southeast of United States.
Yeah, it was an absolutely chaotic weekend. I mean,
So I guess Nick had a little internet issue, but hopefully he'll be back soon. Nick will be back soon, and definitely while Nick tries to reconnect, uh, we have some Monday Night Football as the Kansas City Chiefs has a 10-point lead over the New Orleans Saints, 23-13, and Derek Carr appeared to left the field with some sort of injury, and now I guess the chances of the Kansas City of the New Orleans Saints get the win is really slim. But appreciate you guys joining us, and I guess Nicholas Hill has reconnected. Let's see. I appreciate people watching us on the Gus Nada YouTube page. Let's see if Nick is back. Hello,
was
Nick.
that was that me or like
I
what
guess
happened?
now I don't know. You got reconnected. We have you again.
Okay, yeah, that was very weird. Anyway, so I guess I'm back now, and we're back to talk about the chaos that was Upset Saturday. And unfortunately, the Tennessee Volunteers got collected in the surge of upsets that consumed college football. So let's kind of talk about it. Why did Tennessee, fourth ranked team in the country heading into this game, and two touchdown favorite, lose to Arkansas 19-14? Um, I think there's a couple of different reasons why this happened. First and foremost, I think the number one reason why this happened was a terrible performance from the offensive line. I think that's where this performance starts for Tennessee. The Arkansas's defensive line just flat out whooped their butts all night. I mean, period, point blank. Especially Landon Jackson. He is projected to be a first round draft pick next year at defensive end, number 40 for Arkansas. And he just was having a field day. You know, I know James Pierce Jr. is the most hyped defensive prospect in the country, but Landon Jackson was a star on Saturday night, unfortunately for Tennessee, unfortunately for Arkansas. And, to me, like, if your offensive line's getting toasted that bad, it almost doesn't matter what else you're even trying to do on offense because like it's kind of weird, right? Because it feels like the offensive line has regressed over the past couple of seasons. Because you go back to 22, right? You had like Darnell Wright on that line, who was a top 10 draft pick, and that was when the offense was at its peak efficiency, when we had an elite offensive line. Right now, this team does not have an elite offensive line, especially as it pertains to the pass blocking. Especially when you look at guys at our tackles like Lance Hurd and John Campbell Jr., who are coming back off of injury. And I'm hoping the performance they had Saturday was just an injury problem. But, man, the PFF, I think, had them both under 50%, which is just awful. A horrific performance, ton of penalties, a lot of missed assignments. There was one play where Lance Hurd just got absolutely blown by. It's just not good enough. And you're not going to win many games in hostile environments if you can't block. I can't hear you.
Oh yeah, Nick, I agree with you 100%. I feel that some ghosts from recent past has come back. That 2021 loss versus Florida, the 2022 loss versus South Carolina, uh, kind of resurface. And we point out on our pod last week. Can this team overcome a hostile environment on the road? And unfortunately, it's not ready yet. Hopefully, it's not ready yet, but hopefully, they'll fix soon. And lucky for Tennessee, as Josh Heupel pointed out in the press conference, after a month being away from Neyland, this team finally come back and play at home in a really big game against the arch rival Florida Gators.
I mean, what was weird though is they went to Oklahoma 2 weeks ago and dominated that game. So it wasn't like, that they can't go into hard road environments. They did just that in Oklahoma. And I don't think Arkansas is better talent than Oklahoma, especially defensively. But for whatever reason, this game, like the past two games, both of even though we won in Oklahoma, the offense wasn't great at Oklahoma either. And it just feels like this offensive line is in shambles right now. And we really have to question Glenn Ellerby, the offensive line coach. Why is this group not developing? Of course, we've missed out on some big offensive line commits over the past couple of years. We do have a 5-star left tackle next year in David Sanders Jr., but it feels like the offensive line right now is a glaring weakness on this team. And it's going to probably be the reason why the Vols don't do what we were hoping they would do and compete for an SEC and national title because, I mean, you have a young freshman quarterback back there, Nico Imialava, and I'm going to want to get to him in just a minute. He needs help because he's young. He's still learning how to play and navigate these situations. I mean, this was the first truly tough, close game at the end he was actually in. This is the first time Nico was asked to win a football game, and it's a lot harder when you have no protection. And clearly, Nico is not poised in the pocket at all. Like, if he feels like he's going to get hit, he's going to run, and that's not good because he ends up missing wide open receivers like Dylan Sampson on the last play of the game. So the offensive line, first and foremost, has to be fixed. But now comes, the tough competition here about Nico Imialava. Because, man, I'm not going to lie, I was quite disappointed in what I saw on Saturday. Because up until now, I've been nothing but praising, and I've been nothing but pleased with what I've seen from Nico. Outside of some turnovers against Oklahoma and NC State. But Saturday was not good. And obviously the offensive line aside, because the offensive line was not great. It was not giving him a lot of time. But some of those sacks, especially early on, were him kind of holding on to the ball too long. And I just don't. And I feel like there were some times where he could have pulled up, try to run. Hendon Hooker, they look back 2 years ago, 2022. He would multiple times a game find a way to extend drives with his legs. And we're not really seeing Nico do that. And I don't know why, because Nico's very athletic. Nico can run the ball. We saw that firsthand in Orlando last year against Iowa. He can run. And I don't know why he's not being allowed to. I mean, are they just scared about the injury? I mean, I understand that because of what we have behind him and Gaston Moore. But I feel like at a certain point when you're in these tight games in the SEC, you have to take your chances. I mean, this is football. An injury can happen any play. And if that's the reason, then you just got to let the chains off. Like, you got to live with whatever happens. If he gets hurt running, fine. But clearly this offense needs Nico being able to extend plays with his legs.
Yeah, and one thing, I don't know, it mixed feelings because one, every week I feel like Vol fans are thrilled that the defense is improving and showing their consistency compared to past seasons, but at the same time, the offense is regressing. Uh, Last year, we're talking about maybe was Joe Milton not be good enough compared to Hendon Hooker. But now with Nico being so hyped up, and now kind of like I, I- because I still feel like he's going to be one of the best college athletes this season. But I agree with you when we talked on WhatsApp how he should not be considered for Heisman this season. Maybe next season if he keeps good performance like he had, for example, against Oklahoma or NC State. But I understand that Josh Heupel's side of the ball is not doing so well.
Right. And, you know, let's talk about the way he handled the end of the game, right? The last 2 minute drill. Because I'll say this, that one throw he made on the run down the field, I forget to who, I think it might have been to Deontay Ford, I believe. It was like a 50-yard pass on the run. That was one of the most beautiful passes I've ever seen from UT quarterback. That was incredible. And that is exactly the reason why no one should be giving up on Nico. I've seen one or two people say, "Oh, he's another Joe Milton. He's not any good." I'm dude, come on, relax. Because it was a bad performance, but there's still flashes there. Um, but then what happened after that? Why did we spend 20 seconds without calling a timeout? And Heupel, talked about this today, saying he should have taken a timeout. And I'm glad he acknowledges that he messed up. A lot of coaches wouldn't admit they messed up right there. But I'm glad he did it. And that's why Heupel ultimately is a successful coach, because he knows when he messed up. But he messed up big time in this game, not just there. But he met really the place where I'm really frustrated with Josh Heupel right now is that drive before last. We get the ball back with about 5 minutes left in the game, and we run it once, go hurry up, only spend like 15 seconds, and then throw it for an incompletion. Go to third down, we throw another incompletion, and we waste no time, punt it back to Arkansas. That's when they go down and win the game on the next drive. I mean, Dylan Sampson was the only consistent offense we had in this game, especially in the third quarter. And it felt like we abandoned the run in the fourth quarter. And I don't, for the life of me, understand why. I feel like the game management by Heupel in this game was not good.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I kind of you know compare. Like maybe that was a little bit on Heupel's too. Like I would say, you know, kind of like we can push 50-50. But also credit to Arkansas Razorbacks. Hell of a coaching by Sam Pittman. I would imagine this win kind of kept his job for the season. I don't think he's gonna get fired. Maybe he only if he go like not only if he go like without any wins after this game, but credit to the Arkansas Razorbacks also.
Oh, yeah. Sam Pittman will definitely keep his job. And you have to credit him for bringing in Bobby Petrino as OC. I mean, Bobby Petrino was cooking on Saturday night. I've been highly complimentary of Tim Banks, and I think our defense played as well as they could given the fact they had no offensive support. They kept us in that football game. But Taven Green for Arkansas, you got to clap it up for him. He was incredible on Saturday. Some of the throws he was making, and I said it last week, he's a good quarterback. He's the best thing Arkansas had, and he did well enough to win that football game. And frankly, I'm going to be real with you. Arkansas should have won this thing by 2 or 3 touchdowns because they kept on screwing around the first half, not finishing drives. They got stopped at fourth and short 2 or 3 times, which was great plays by our defense. And of course, the kicker missed a field goal. They thoroughly outplayed Tennessee in this football game, and we really had no business winning it. But we're in a position to. We're up double digits, and the fact that we couldn't finish this one out is really concerning because we just didn't look like a good football team out there on Saturday, especially on offense. I don't know. It's just another road loss, and I don't know why we continue to have these stinkers on the road. I'm glad we got Oklahoma at least, because imagine we had lost both Oklahoma and Arkansas. It'd be some really difficult, uncomfortable conversations right now. But I'm just gonna. It's just one of those games. It was just one of those days, and you almost have to look at it as like a bit of a mulligan. for Tennessee. And we live in the era of the 12-team playoffs, so they only dropped to number 8. We're still very much control our own destiny for the playoffs. You just kind of have to move on, and it's kind of like NFL now a little bit, where like, yeah, you take a loss in the NFL, but you just bounce back the next week.
Yeah. That's the good thing I feel like about this 12-team playoffs. That you can lose a game and it's not the end of the world. It's not, your season is over. But Tennessee now has to win Florida and Alabama. Has to.
Has to, yeah, because we still got to go to Georgia. And based on what I saw on Saturday with our track record of road games, we're not winning at Georgia. So you have to assume that loss. And then you got to ask yourself, is there any room for error outside of that? I there's a chance that 9-3 could still get you in, maybe, but I don't want to be the test dummy to figure that one out. So, obviously, let's talk about this week's game. It's Florida. Obviously, I've said many, many times that Florida is the team I despise the most. Because growing up, we lost to them year in, year out. I've only seen us beat Florida twice. And of course, last year we were heavy favorites. We went into the swamp and got our rear ends kicked by the Gators. And of course, Sunbelt Billy, Billy Napier, he's coming off of a pretty big win for himself. They beat UCF this past week, a game where I thought if they lost, he would have gotten fired. So he staved off his firing for at least one more week. And honestly, Florida looks better, especially defensively. They had a player go for 5 sacks against KJ Jefferson and the Knights. And we saw how Graham Mertz performed last year. Graham Mertz's best performance as a Florida Gator was against Tennessee last year. They just dominated us in that first half. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. I know we're 16.5-point favorites, which just has to be the most we've ever been favored against Florida. I'm definitely worried because we're Tennessee, they're Florida, and it doesn't matter how good we are, how bad they are. They just seem to own Tennessee, and I'm just going to be honest here. I don't feel good about this game.
That Tennessee-Florida rivalry reminds me a lot of the rivalry between Rio Branco and União Barbarense. It's heated rivalry. We hate them. They hate us. But unfortunately, in the overall series, they dominate us. We can be in first place, playing really well, and somehow they always find a way to win. It's kind of like some sort of a voodoo. I don't know if as a Tennessee fan you feel the same, but your Bronco fans talk about that, like how they always find a way to win. They might have the worst roster, the worst coaching staff, but they always find a way to win. And that's what I feel about Tennessee, Florida as well. That's why when Tennessee wins, like it happened in 2016 and 2021, it feels if 2022, it feels special. It feels different because it's a rivalry that's kind of being lopsided. And this season, Tennessee has one thing that I don't like in rivalries: all the favoritism, and ends up deserving favoritism because you have a better quarterback, a better coach, but that doesn't necessarily translate into a W.
Okay, let's be honest here. How much better is Nico right now than Graham Mertz?
Considerably. Of course, one's younger than the other, but I feel like Nico is better in theory, but he has to prove it on Saturday.
Right, and also Florida's going to be using 2 quarterbacks here, not just Graham Mertz. They'll be also using their true freshman DJ Lagway, who's their 5-star, that their Gator fans are really, really high on, and they're hoping that he saves their program. And I feel like Billy Napier, we saw how he coached 2 years ago versus Tennessee. He went for it on a 4th down like every single time. They had a chance with Anthony Richardson. I expect Florida to do basically the same thing here if they get the same opportunity. And Obviously our defense is much better than it was 2 years ago. Like, I don't think Florida's going to run up and down the field on this defense. No, I don't. I don't think any team's going to run up and down the field on this defense because I think our defense is really, really, really good. Uh, my concern is, are we going to be able to get any rhythm in offense? Like, do we have a way? Like, if they're stopping runs for 2 yards, if they're not letting any of the screens break free, do we have a way to generate some offense? Do we have a way to get Nico enough time to throw over the middle? Are we going to allow him to scramble? You got to loosen up the defense where you can take some deep shots. And I just think that we've got to find a way to get a big play early. Get a big play early, get some good rhythm, and, get Florida down early because, this crowd's going to be nuts. It's a nighttime game. They're going to be at full throat. It's Florida, Tennessee. And our fans are going to show up because I think they know how big this game is. And honestly, I think this game is so big for Josh Heupel because, we Tennessee fans, I think, in general, love Josh Heupel. They're very, very high on him. But he may begin to lose a few folks that they lose here.
Yeah, I think starting the game strong and kind of dominating the scoreboard is very important because then you have the crowd on your side. You don't get the kind of, uh, like a bummer environment. So I definitely agree with you in terms of, take the control of the game early.
Right. And also, people are going to be a little bit on edge too. So if you start off slow, then you're really going to have the crowd really on edge. And that's exactly what Florida needs to do if they're going to win this football game. And I hope Nico takes all the lessons he possibly can from last week. I hope Heupel takes all the lessons he can from possibly last week. Because I do think when you look at just the rosters right now, Tennessee's better. If you look at the rosters, Tennessee should win this football game. But we should have won last week, and we did not. Now, I think we will play better this week. I really, really do. I'll be honest, though. If I was a betting man, I would not bet us to cover. I think Florida will be in this thing all 4 quarters. I think it'll be very, very tight. I know some people are wishing for a blowout. Look, I did not come out here last year, Gus, and say we were going to win by 4 touchdowns in the Swamp. I came on here and predicted we were going to win like 45-17 because I just thought there was no way that Florida was going to compete with Tennessee last year, and we saw what happened. So I'm never predicting a blowout against Florida again until I see us actually blow them out for once. So I'll say this. I'm going to pick the Vols to win, but I'm going to pick them to win by like something like 28-24.
I think it's going to be 31-27.
Yeah. Basically, our advice is we would bet on Florida to cover. Now, I'm not going to do that because not my nature to bet against my team. But if I was a neutral, I'd be betting on Florida to cover. So, and if you really believe in that voodoo, maybe you should take the money line. But it's gut check time. It's a gut check time for Heupel's program because they're a lot better than what they showed last Saturday. We know how much better they are. We've seen how much better they are in the early part of the year. And let's put up or shut up time. Because if we lose to Florida, that season's basically over because you're not beating Bama, probably. You're not beating Georgia if you lose to Florida. The playoffs are done. We're going to a meaningless bowl game, and the season was all for naught.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. If Tennessee lose this game, then you might start looking into some maybe some goodish mid-tier bowls because with 2 losses coming before the Alabama and Georgia game, only a miracle. Only then you have to run the table then.
Pretty much, and I would be demanding some assistants get replaced. Starting with the offensive line coach in MLB, first and foremost. I'm close to wanting to do that now, but I will give them the benefit of the doubt. Please don't lose to Florida again. I've had to watch us lose to these people so much my entire life, This would be only the third time I've ever seen us beat Florida. So, please, Vols, don't do this to me.
Just don't. Just get the
Please
W.
don't. Get the W. Win no matter what. All right. But as bad as the Vols weekends was, it could be worse. It could be worse. Right, Alabama? Man, the number one team in the country went up to Nashville for. I mean, we said it last week. We thought this was a de facto home game for Alabama, and it basically was. Mostly Crimson in the crowd. But this wasn't the same old Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt took a lead early. We've seen them do that before. But I was expecting Bama to come back. And Bama never really did. I mean, they took the lead briefly, but then Vanderbilt responded. And the Commodores stunned Alabama 40-35. I mean, this might be the most shocking result I've ever seen in SEC play.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. It's I saw, imagine the Vanderbilt fan who saw Vandy got destroyed. I think it was like 60-0 when Alabama was the number one team in the country. To see this win, and they copied the Vols. Did you saw that? They copied the Vols.
Yeah, they went all the way down Broadway, which that's impressive, right? Because Vanderbilt's nowhere near the Cumberland River in Nashville. Like, they had to take that thing 2 miles to the river. So shout out to them. They wanted to be like Big Brother, take the goalpost into the river. And hey, shout out. I mean, this is the biggest win in Vanderbilt history. Easily. I mean, it's just insane that Vanderbilt pulled this off. And really got to give credit to Diego Pavia. He was amazing on Saturday. Like, the way that little speed option they run, that RPO, I mean, he's so efficient at it that it's unreal. Like, it's so tricky to stop. And there's a reason why Vandy has beaten Virginia Tech, now Alabama. They almost beat Missouri on the road. And really, and honestly, at this point, I don't know how they lost to Georgia State. Like, that result makes no sense to me. That result even makes less sense to me now that happened. But, and also, did you see his post game? Because Pavia was fired up on the post game.
Yeah, and I guess all the critics that were silenced after the impressive Georgia win last week came to resurface strong, and unfortunately Kellen DeBoer was avoiding that feeling, but it resurfaced strong of, if only Nick Saban was the coach, Alabama wouldn't lose that game.
They definitely wouldn't have, because that defense was atrocious. That is the worst Alabama defensive performance that I think I've ever seen. Outside of when they came to Knoxville 2 years ago. Like, I remember Bama wouldn't give up 20 points in a season. And they're out here, I mean, the last 6 quarters, they've given up 67 points.
Yeah, that's true. That's a fair point in terms of how the defense regressed from last year. Of course, Kellen DeBoer is more prone to the offense, but Alabama fans are used to having a strong defense.
Right, and like, their offense really didn't lose in that game. It was just that defense couldn't tackle. They weren't covering the flats for some reason. Like, they never adjusted to Vanderbilt's offense. Like, I don't understand. Kane Womack's their defensive coordinator, and he just looked lost in this game. Like, this made zero sense for Alabama. And, I've seen some Alabama fans, and they're just all perplexed beyond all belief. They can't believe this. I mean, they're like in a state of mourning in Crimson Tide Nation, Like, basically, there's a guy, Paul Feinbaum today was nuts. I mean, there's one guy in there saying that this basically felt like catching your wife cheating on and basically was like, I can never trust Kellen DeBoer again. They're done. They beat Georgia last week, and now Vanderbilt has just undone all goodwill.
Because on all Bama fans' schedule, this game was a for sure W, as has always been for the past decades. But I, that's why we love college football. That's why we love this sport, because on any given Saturday, upset win like that can happen.
And honestly, I think we now need to have a serious conversation about, are we entering? I mean, we know we're entering a new era of college football this year with the expanded playoffs, with all these new conference alignments. But I think what it's also doing with the transfer portal and the NIL and everything else, I think results like this are going to become more common because teams, frankly, are not as far apart as there used to be. I think Alabama's a little bit worse than they were in 2019. I think Vandy's a little bit better than they were in 2019. And when you combine those things, well, you get a result like this every now and
Yeah,
then.
it's a new era for college football. It's gonna be more parity than ever, and that's why it's good about it. I was talking to a friend of mine who likes football as well, and I was like, we were discussing that also because of conference realignment, I think it's gonna be impossible for a team. No, I say improbable. It's possible, but it's gonna be very rare for a team to be undefeated. It's gonna be really,
Yeah.
really, really, really hard because now with conference realignment, especially in the Big Ten and the SEC, the two major conferences, uh, we have really tougher games than we used to.
Yeah, and it's funny. Just obviously, as with Tennessee, right? Like we lost this weekend. At first, like I'm really upset, right? Because I'm used to in college football one loss ending everything. Because that's been the norm forever. That one loss ended all your shot at a championship. But now, after the initial shock of the loss, I look back like, wait, we have 12-team playoff now. This thing's far from over. And that's the same thing for Alabama as well. I mean, they're still ranked 7th. Like they still have a long, long road ahead of them where they can get some good wins to kind of erase this loss. And frankly, it's not like Vanderbilt is the worst team you could lose to. I mean, they have a decent win against Virginia Tech. They were close with Missouri. The only real knock is losing to Georgia State, which I still, as I said, I don't know how that happened. But it's not the worst loss they could have, you know. And that's weird to say that. It's weird to think like that because I think in college football for a long time, being perfect has been the standard. Has been you have to be perfect to win an Natty. Not anymore. And really, frankly, you have to play 16 games now to win a national title. You're not going to. Like, there's a reason why there has been an NFL team that has been undefeated since 1972. Because it's nearly impossible, and college football is going to become like that.
Yeah, I think it's as we talked about, a new era of parity and expansion, and it takes a little bit of fun of the upset because I feel like uh, it was a sense of pride for Vandy instead of shock. For of course there was a sense of shock, but not like, oh, Bama season's over. Like, for example, I think it happened a couple of years ago to Ohio State when they lost to Purdue, uh, and it pretty much jeopardized their season. Um, so I think it kind of gives you a sense of of being able to recuperate.
True. That's 100% correct. It's going to be very fast to see if Bama responds this week against South Carolina. And for Vandy, they go to Kentucky. So can they kind of come back down? Because this feels like a spot where Vandy will probably drop this game this week just because they've been celebrating the Bama win all week. But in any case, shout out to the Commodores. I make fun of them all the time, as I should, that they're an in-state rival. But hey, I'm glad to see that. And I'll say this. I am very nervous now about the Tennessee Vanderbilt game at the end of the year. I know there will be more Vols fans in there still, but like that Diego Pavia, man, that dude just knows how to pull off upsets.
And Tennessee has lost to Vandy before, so it's not like.
And this is what's scary is I'm scared we're going to be in a 2016 situation again. Remember, in that situation, we had a New Year's Six Bowl in the line and we lost and lost a chance to go to the Sugar Bowl. What if we have a playoff spot on the line last game of the year at Vandy? How good do you think any of us are going to be feeling into that? Because that feels like that'd be.
Well, go ahead.
I would say I would be stressing out all week about that.
And that loss would be even worse than, for example, that South Carolina loss.
Oh my God, it would be horrific. It'd be the worst loss of the Heupel era. So let's hope it doesn't come to that. But I see a scenario easily where it does. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens. But shout out to Vandy. All right, some other brief college football notes here. Missouri, man, getting exposed. I'll be honest, I still have some faith in Missouri heading into this game at Texas A&M, but man, they're not a playoff team. They just got absolutely crushed by Texas A&M.
Well, and what's funny about that is now Texas A&M is leading the SEC and would have been qualified for the playoffs. How crazy is that? Of course, Texas and LSU are still undefeated in the SEC, but pretty much everyone else already had a SEC loss. Not Texas A&M.
I mean, it's very, very possible that Texas A&M can win it out until they get to Texas. And then imagine if Texas A&M is 10-1 heading into the Texas game. And they host Texas.
It's pretty much possible because the only hard game is going to be against LSU at home. And, Kyle Field is a trap, as Missouri just saw. So if Texas A&M runs the table and Texas runs the table, is this going to be the biggest Texas A&M game ever?
I think it's already the biggest Texas A&M ever, just because it's the first one in over a decade, let alone what the records are. But especially if it's like 11-0 versus 10-1, which I don't think will happen. But if it is that, wow. Talk about the drama. Talk about the scenes. Because, these Aggies have been waiting for this for a long time. So I think it would be just an absolutely crazy environment. Speaking of a crazy environment, though, shout out to Cal and the Golden Bears. Those folks showed up and showed that they care about their football team. Unfortunately, their football team screwed them over. They had a large lead, a 25-point lead in the second half of Miami, and Cam Ward led a miracle comeback to keep Miami undefeated. They got some help from the refs that they kind of did against Virginia Tech. There was a targeting call that should have been upheld as a targeting call, and it wasn't, so it allowed Miami to get the ball back. But hey, shout out to Miami, though. I mean, they haven't looked great the last 2 weeks, but they're finding ways to win these close games, and that is huge because that's often how a team gets to a title game, is by winning close games. They feel like maybe they're this year's TCU or Washington.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, great performance by the Hurricanes. And is Mario Cristobal really going to silence the critics?
I mean, he definitely isn't right now. I think a lot of people see Miami as fraudulent. And he's going to have to go probably win the ACC and win a playoff game to shut them up. And I think he might have the talent to do that in spite of coaching, but I do think his coaching will probably keep Miami from being a true title contender.
So, do you think Miami is winning despite of Mario Cristobal or because of Mario Cristobal?
In spite. I think they're winning in spite. I think Cam Ward is that good, and I think they're winning in spite of. I think they're winning because of Cam Ward and not because of Mario Cristobal. And in my view, I think Mario or Cam Moore should be the Heisman front runner right now. Now, there's a lot of debate whether it should be him or it should be Ashton Genty, the running back from Boise State, who's unreal. I just think that Miami's undefeated right now, and Cam Moore keeps on finding ways to pull off miraculous wins. So I'm giving it to Ward for now. And then Travis Hunter would be in that top 3 as well from Colorado.
Yeah, but going back to Miami, so I don't know. They might go undefeated this season because, maybe their only true test is Louisville on the road.
And Louisville just got beat by SMU at home. So I don't think Louisville is truly that good. Granted, I think SMU is actually pretty good. But obviously, Florida State is going to be an easy win, I think. Duke is okay. Georgia Tech could be a landmine. I think their hardest game is either Georgia Tech or Syracuse. I could see one of those two teams pulling off an upset, but they don't play Clemson during the regular season. And I could see a scenario where they finish the regular season undefeated and then get blasted by Clemson in the ACC title game. Because I think Clemson's playing really well right now. And also, I will say this too. Watch out for SMU. SMU has a real shot of finishing undefeated in the ACC. And if they do, they might screw around and find their way to the ACC title game. And then SMU is a game away from making the playoff. Because SMU, going to Louisville, winning this week, blowing out Florida State the week before, like the Mustangs have figured it out. And they're a fun team to watch. I really like SMU a lot.
And what a rebirth of a program. Talk about a rebirth of a program that was literally dead 3 decades ago.
Absolutely. The Pony Express is back. And that's awesome for some college football. Some other reactions from around the league. Another bad loss for Lincoln Riley on the road against Minnesota. It just feels like any time a team starts pushing around a Lincoln Riley team, his team just folds. I think Lincoln Riley is not ready for the Big Ten at all.
I mean, he wasn't doing so well in the Pac-12. Now in the Big Ten, I don't think he's quite ready yet. But the question is, maybe he was to adapt to the Big 12, more offensive play and less focus on defense. And Big Ten is very focused on, hard pounded games.
Absolutely. There's a reason why I picked USC to go 4-8 at the beginning of the year. Right now, that might be all they win. And actually, it's mind-boggling they beat LSU in week 1. And same goes to Michigan too. They got beat by Washington the other night, and they have no passing game. You can't win a championship and be a serious team without a passing game, and that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, and I guess Washington Huskies had their revenge. If there's some game that the Huskies can take pride of, is revenging the national title.
Right. I mean, I don't know really how many players from either side are still even there at this point. Obviously, none of the coaching staffs are. But that's something for Washington. And they've had a rough start to the year, losing the Apple Cup and then losing to Rutgers. So shout out to them. That's a good one for Jeff Fish. Last week, Ole Miss, they came back, had a pretty good win against South Carolina after losing the week before. I think that was big. Also, I think the game of the week to me, honestly, was Syracuse UNLV on Friday night. This game was awesome. Went to overtime. Syracuse won. And this one's huge because UNLV was my G5 team that's in. And right now, because I think a lot of people are putting Boise State in that spot because of Ashton Genty, I would go with undefeated Navy as a G5 team that should be in the playoff. I think Navy has played exceptionally well so far. They've blown out everyone they played. They get a huge opportunity in a few weeks against Notre Dame in a rivalry game. If Navy can beat Notre Dame, then they could be on the road fast tracking to the playoffs. So Watch out for the midshipmen.
But we have to consider Liberty Flames as well. They're still undefeated.
No, and this is why. The CUSA is basically a glorified FCS conference. The Missouri Valley in the FCS is better than CUSA. I would be furious if undefeated Liberty got into the playoffs. I don't think Liberty should be even in the consideration. I would take a 2-loss Boise State over undefeated Liberty because Boise State actually plays some good competition. Liberty plays nobody, and even the teams that Liberty plays, they have struggled and they've been behind in several of their football games. See, the next opponent they play, when do they play again?
Is they were supposed to be they were supposed to play Appalachian State, but the game of course got canceled. So they're gonna play Florida International University.
Yeah, so they were trailing Campbell, they were trailing New Mexico State, they were trailing East Carolina, and then let's just look at the rest of the schedule. I mean, there's no good teams in there. The best team they play is probably Western Kentucky. I mean, I watched a bit of Kennesaw State the other night. They're worse than Kent State, and we saw what happened to them when they played Tennessee. Like, no, I don't care how much they beat these teams by. Liberty, it would be a waste of a playoff spot. We saw what happened when they played Oregon last year. Liberty does not deserve to be in any conversation. Boise State or UNLV or potentially even Navy would give their P4 opponent a much better run for their money. It'd be a much better game. It's like the Florida State argument last year, right? You know, we kept Florida State out because we just thought Bama was a better team, and we got a classic because of it. But if you look at that G5 spot, they chose Liberty over SMU because, Liberty's undefeated. Let's give them the spot, and they got crushed. Do you think SMU would have gotten crushed last year by Oregon 45-6 in the same way? No, I don't think they would have beaten Oregon, but I think they would have been closer. So that's why I don't expect to go on a rant about Liberty. And of course, there's other things with Liberty. I just don't think they're a legit educational institution. But I don't think Liberty should be in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think the strength of conference has to be heavily considered when it comes to choose a team to go to a playoff, because it's one thing to a G5 team goes to play in a major bowl game. Okay, but this doesn't have any implication towards the national championship. Now it does.
Oh, absolutely. I think the Mountain West and the American are by far the two best G5 conferences. And I feel like almost exclusively the G5 team should come from one of those two conferences. So that's just kind of my take on it. And maybe the Sun Belt. Maybe the Sun Belt if you had an undefeated team. But and of course, when Northern Illinois beat Notre Dame, I had them in there briefly for a little bit because that was such a good win. But the Sun Belt or the CUSA should just not get any consideration. They're about to lose UTEP to the Mountain West. That's how bad the Conference USA is. Also, I do want to bring up this potential possibility. This is something for us to potentially monitor down the road. So not only is Navy undefeated, but Army is undefeated too. So they still play a week after conference championships. And theoretically, this would be after the playoffs are already set. So if Navy and Army are undefeated, they would play in the American Championship game for a right to go to the playoffs potentially if they were both undefeated. And then they would play again the week after in the traditional Army-Navy game. And then whoever won the first matchup would get to go play to the playoffs the next week. I don't know if that's going to happen, but that possibility exists.
I mean, from what I can, from all the arguments we talked about it now, that's why this playoff expansion was the right call.
Absolutely, because we've never talked about these teams before, ever until now. And I keep an eye out on these teams because of because of how important they actually are now. So let's look ahead to this week a little bit, shall we? So, what are some of our upset alerts for this week's slate of college football games?
Mine is gonna be Oklahoma beating Texas.
Wow. I mean, their defense is pretty good. I mean, we've seen a crazier thing. I don't know if I should say wow to anything, but literally, Vanderbilt beat Alabama. Anything is possible. Literally anything is possible. Like, I look at the schedule. Could Marcus Freeman lose a second time at home to Stanford? Would he get fired if he lost to Stanford at home a second time? I mean, legitimately. I mean, that would be such a horrible loss um, for Marcus Freeman. But in terms of an upset, I think West Virginia at home against Iowa State, and Iowa State's only a 3-point favorite, but that's a long way to travel. And I just think that that West Virginia's due a big win. Now, in terms of an underrated matchup, to me, Arizona at BYU, because I want to see just how good BYU actually is. Like right now, I have them as a team that I would pick to get the automatic bid for the Big 12, based off that 30-point win they had against Kansas State a couple of weeks ago. Iowa State's also undefeated. And they're getting an Arizona team that's underachieved a bit, but they got, obviously they have some talent on that team. It's going to be a big atmosphere in Provo.
Another matchup for me is Pittsburgh Cal. I mean, Cal just can't. Cal still hasn't won in the ACC, but came really close to be Miami. And Pitt is undefeated, so they have to win to keep this, playoff chances alive.
Right. I think another underrated one, too, Utah and Arizona State. I think Utah's on the ropes. I don't know if Cam Rising is back yet. And Arizona State's better than expected this year, and it's a Friday night game. I wouldn't be shocked if Utah went down as well in the desert to Arizona State.
One game I'm kind of baffled about it. Don't understand. Missouri going to Amherst, Massachusetts to play UMass. That's kind of odd.
Well, Missouri did look like a G5 team the other day, so they're playing down the competition.
Yeah, but it's interesting how we see those kind of low tier SEC teams kind of behaving as G5 teams that go on the road on the road to play uh, out of conference games. It's kind of,
Yeah.
and you don't see Alabama doing that. You don't see Tennessee, Georgia doing that.
I mean, it's embarrassing. No SEC team should be doing this. I don't know why Missouri is going to Massachusetts. Massachusetts is really bad. Missouri should win this game easily, but that's a dumb one.
Yeah.
My best bet, I mean, I've already said I think Florida plus. Right now, the number is, I feel like the number is falling a bit, but it's 15.5. I don't think anyone smart should trust Tennessee to cover 15.5 against Florida. I don't care if Florida had a group of middle school students playing. I wouldn't trust Florida, trust Tennessee to cover 15.5. So maybe I'm doing all this just to reverse jinx myself, but I just got to be honest with you that I think Florida will cover. I think Tennessee will win, but Florida will cover.
My best bet is Georgia over. I think it's going to be a beatdown. Georgia Bulldogs against the Mississippi State.
That's a really high number, and Georgia's been inconsistent at times on offense. Like, do we trust our offense to score 32 points? They scored only 31 against Auburn. I mean, I don't know. Like, that would give me some pause. I wouldn't touch that one. personally. But yeah, so all right, let's pick some games here. All right, big one in the Big 12 here. Kansas State with their running back Dylan Edwards going to play his old team in Colorado, a team coming off a bye week with a lot of momentum. Colorado wins. They are a serious Big 12 contender more than likely. Can the Buffs do it?
Yes, give me the Buffaloes.
As Lee Corso would say, not so fast. I'm going Kansas State. I think this will be a close game, but I just think Kansas State ultimately will dominate up front and find a way to get this done. Now, an unusual Big Ten matchup here. We got Penn State going all the way across the country to the USC Trojans.
Give me the Nittany Lions.
You know what? I know I've trashed USC all the time, but I'll say this too: I'm not impressed with Penn State either. I think they look lethargic. I wasn't impressed with them against UCLA the other day. I wasn't impressed with them with Illinois the week before that. Give me USC. All right, the newest SEC rivalry, the Red River Shootout between Texas and Oklahoma. I know you said you're taking Oklahoma. And before I get my pick, just how important is it now that this is an SEC game? Like, does this elevate it at all? Because I feel like it's already one of the top 5 rivalries anyway. But having the SEC being in this game is just, I think, makes it even that much better.
One thing I feel like, and I should have asked the tour guy when I went to Cotton Bowl, is that if I would imagine Cotton Bowl has artificial light, so I think this game should have been a night game.
I disagree. Texas Oklahoma has always been during the day, and I think that game particularly looks good being during the day. I think especially when you got the burnt orange versus the red out there under the bright Texas sun during the Texas State Fair with all the corn dogs and stuff. Yeah, I think Texas Oklahoma should be during the day.
But at least not at noon.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But I'm going to go Texas here. I think Texas coming off the bye, they're going to be a bit too much. Now, we have another rivalry game here. It's the Magnolia Bowl between Ole Miss heading down to LSU, which is a night game in Death Valley. Can Ole Miss avoid a second lawsuit? And LSU, for that matter.
I mean, it's a kind of a game that is going to be defining the season because both coaches needed this win because all the skepticism that has been thrown under both. So give me Ole Miss.
I'm going to go give me Ole Miss. I don't think LSU is that good. I'll just be honest. I think Ole Miss is a better team. Yes, it's going to be hard for them to win in Death Valley, but I trust Ole Miss went into South Carolina the other day, a really hostile South Carolina, and got out there with a free touchdown win. I think they can do something similar in Death Valley. Give me the Rebels. All right. And now for the game of the week, the newest Big Ten rivalry, Ohio State at Oregon. And really, to me, is this Ohio State's only real test? I think they go to Penn State. They still have Michigan. But to me, this was like far and away their test.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's their biggest test of the season. And Ryan Day kind of lives for games like that. Remember how much he really incorporated against Notre Dame. So give me the Buckeyes.
I'm going to agree too. I think the Buckeyes, they might have the best team in the country. Granted, they don't play as many tough teams compared to the SEC, but I don't think Oregon's been that impressive so far this year. I haven't been impressed with Dylan Gabriel in Oregon. I'll take Ohio State. All right, some quick NFL reactions. I feel like overall this week wasn't too insane in the NFL. The Chiefs did win tonight 26-13 over the Saints. I think probably the craziest game of the week, though, was Ravens-Bengals. I mean, Lamar Jackson is just unbelievable. just what some of the throws he made in that game. I mean, only Lamar Jackson could do that.
But also, what an impressive big run by Derrick Henry. I mean, they are clicking. Definitely the duo is clicking.
Yeah, after that upset loss against the Raiders in week 2, they've gotten it together. And I think they're well on their way to winning the AFC North because we're seeing the Steelers fall apart. Of course, the Dak got a huge win on the road. That game was late. I didn't even make it to the end of that. Had to watch the highlights this morning because of storm delays. But Dak Prescott, huge win on the road. Clutch touchdown at the end. But hey, it's a regular season, so Dak Prescott can win you a clutch game in the regular season. Can he do it in January? We're 3 months away from finding out that answer. We also
shout out to the Cardinals. Really impressive win against the 49ers. And the question is, are they too much Christian McCaffrey dependent?
I think so. I really do think so. And without Christian McCaffrey, I think Brock Purdy to an extent gets exposed. And doesn't Brock Purdy just feel like another Jimmy Garoppolo? Very much could be the case for San Francisco. Kyle Shanahan should have found a way to win last year because I don't think he's going to make it back this year. Also, did you see where Deshaun Watson basically gave up on his team yesterday? Like, they had a 4th down. His coach was considering going for it, and he just walks off the field, forcing them to kick a field goal down 21. Deshaun Watson's not a leader.
Definitely is one of the biggest mistakes in NFL history.
Very much. Cleveland is forever stupid for letting Baker Mayfield go. I will never understand that at all. That's a toxic organization.
And good, for Baker. Good for Baker as well because he's been playing really good in Tampa.
Oh, absolutely. Also, Sean McDermott. Now, I complained about Josh Heupel's clock management earlier. Did you see the end of the Bills-Texans game? The Bills got the ball back with like 30 seconds left. The Texans had no timeouts. So the Bills could have just taken a knee and taken to overtime, tied 20-20, because they're on their own 5. You're more likely not going to go anywhere. Instead, the Bills, what they decided to do was to air it out 3 straight times, getting a complete incompletion every single time. Then they were forced to punt. The Texans got a good punt return. And they ended up losing because they decided instead of kneeling it out and going to overtime in a really bad position deep in their own territory, to throw it out. It made no sense. So, the Bills, man, and that's the type of thing that prevents them from ever winning a Super Bowl.
And their Super Bowl window is getting really, really tight. I mean, and unfortunately, Josh Allen's kind of vitality is going to run out.
Absolutely, but that's a huge win, though, for the Texans. The Jaguars finally got a win, and they got their first win. I feel bad for the Colts fan base. That team is not good, especially on defense. Colts and Titans were both down bad right now. Down very bad. And that's really all. I mean, the Dolphins finally won. Yay. The Bears blew out the Panthers. The Panthers are back to being the Panthers. The Jets lost. They have no offense. I think Aaron Rodgers, I think we can officially say with confidence, is washed.
I mean, 3 interceptions. I mean, really disappointing performance.
Right, and wasting an amazing defense. I don't understand why the Jets do some of the things that they do.
And another thing, the Tennessee Titans did not lose.
Because they didn't play. So that's 2 straight weeks where they haven't lost because they won last week, and then they had the bye week. So shout out to the Titans. All right, let's pick some Week 6 games here. So Thursday night, we have the San Francisco 49ers at the Seattle Seahawks.
Give me the Seattle Seahawks.
I agree. Give me the Seahawks. All right, Sunday, the ever classic AFC rivalry, the Colts at the Titans.
Mm. Give me the Titans, but unfortunately, this game is not as much big as it was in the recent past. Both teams
Right.
losing record.
Yeah, it's a toilet bowl now. Give me the Titans. Why not? All right, Jaguars and Bears in London.
Kind of like a home game for the Jaguars, I guess, because all the rumors that they're gonna move overseas. Give me the Bears.
Yeah, I agree. Give me the Bears as well. Cardinals at Packers.
Um, Packers, but it's gonna be close. I'll bet the under.
Give me the Packers. All right, Texans at Patriots.
Oh, give me Houston. I'll bet the over.
Yeah, give me Houston as well. All right, Bucks at Saint. The Bucks are already in New Orleans because they're escaping ahead of the hurricane. Which, by the way, hoping everyone taking preparations and staying safe for that. What do we think here?
Yeah, that's true. My parents lived not less than an hour away from Tampa, in the city of Nokomis. Hopefully, they can stay safe. And but one thing I'll be worried about, I don't know if you saw that, but Derek Carr left the field, carried out by uh, some medical staff.
I saw
Uh,
that. Yeah,
yeah, in the second half. So I don't know how much this game is going to be affected by that, because definitely Derek Carr has been playing really well this season. So give me the Bucks.
I'm going to agree with the Bucks. I think they're going to be winning for a fan base that's really going to be wanting one on Sunday. All right, Browns at Eagles.
Give me Philadelphia.
I agree. Give me Philly as well. Now, what about this matchup? I wonder what Dylan Becker thinks about this one. Commanders at Ravens. Both of these teams are on fire right now.
It's so funny. Is the DC rivalry game, and both teams are good. Both teams are, fighting for division. So it's gonna be. That's why tickets are going for $270 because imagine, and it's really close because for a DC, I remember I literally 5 years ago I made that train ride. Is a 40-minute train ride between downtown DC and Baltimore, so it's really close. It's actually easier in DC for you to go to downtown Baltimore than to go to the Commander Stadium. Can you believe that?
I could totally believe that. But think about this: Jaden Daniels versus Lamar Jackson. Jaden Daniels to me is just baby Lamar to an extent.
Give me the Commanders.
I'm gonna go Ravens. I just think we're fighting fire with fire here, but this is going to be an amazing game. Though the total is 40 over under is 52.5. I'm gonna go over. I think this is going to be a shootout. Now, what's not going to be a shootout is Chargers at Broncos.
Oh, it's going to be heavy pounded defensive game. Give me the Chargers.
I'm going to go with the Broncos. I just really like how their defense is playing. And Bo Nix is playing smart football. Denver. All right. Now, this is a good old-fashioned rivalry right here. Steelers at the Raiders.
For me, give me the Steelers. One of those. It's going to be one of those games. I think this game is going to be similar to when the Steelers beat the Falcons. Defense, kicking team, no throwing touchdowns.
I'm actually going to go Raiders in an upset. So I think the Steelers are starting to get exposed a little bit. All right. Huge game here. Lions at Cowboys. Remember the last time we saw this game? Lions, we were watching it in Florida. Lions got robbed. Our Lions robbed themselves.
And incredibly, this game has tickets for $42, which isn't interesting because it's the kind of game that you wanted to go because definitely has a decisive implications for the NFC. Give me the Cowboys because that's the kind of game Dak Prescott lives to. You know, a home game against a playoff team like last year. Give me the Cowboys.
I agree. Give me the Cowboys. All right. Falcons at Panthers.
Falcons, no doubt about it. Give me Atlanta.
All right. I'm going to go Atlanta as well. And okay, NBC, what are we doing here? Why is Bengals at Giants a Sunday night game? We can't flex Commanders Ravens?
I mean, or even I would have put, yeah, I guess Commanders and Ravens would have been better than, I mean, Daniel Jones versus Joe Burrow. I mean, give me the Giants.
I'm going to be honest. Give me the Bengals. Although the Giants did get a really good one on the road this week. All right. Monday night game. Bills Jets. First and foremost, can Aaron Rodgers make it through this Monday night game versus Buffalo? And who's going to win?
I mean, last time those two teams played in New Jersey, Aaron Rodgers did not even complete one drive. So maybe he do a better job. But that's a kind of game that is going to be defining season because the Jets win it, then it really opened up the AFC East because then you have 3-3 Jets, 3-3 Bills, and maybe a 3-3 Dolphins. So you have to win this game to survive this season. If the Bills win, then I think they then control the division.
Yeah, but I do think the Bills are going to get back on the right track here and get a win.
Yeah. Oh, and I didn't saw that the Dolphins get a bye. So if the Jets win, they go to first place in the division. So really
Wow.
big game.
AFC East is terrible.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Oh,
Yeah. Bills need to win this one.
for
All right.
me, give me my New York Jets.
All right. Let's look at some MLB playoffs real quick because we're now in the divisional round. And I believe we have 4 1-1 series. All these series are 1-1, which you can't really ask for anything better. I mean, what's standing out to you so far through these series?
Oh, Padres and Dodgers for sure. What a series that is. You have everything. You have fans throwing stuff on the field, Padres dominating the Dodgers in LA. Now, I just saw that breaking news a couple of minutes ago that Dodgers manager David Roberts criticized Manny Machado for throwing baseball into the dugout before hitting exchange. So those two teams hate each other. The fan bases hate each other. I mean, I think it's gonna be to 5 games.
Yeah, I thought Tennessee fans were the one who threw stuff on the field.
Yeah. Oh my God, Dodger fans, they created a chaos last Sunday, and and for some I saw online it was bad because it kind of riled up the Padres roster, and they come up really strong after the 7th inning when the Struff starts throwing, and they score 6 innings on the 6 runs on the last 2 innings. So, but Dodgers fans should not throw stuff to rile up Padres players. My New York Mets won game 1 on Saturday, but lost game 2 on Sunday. I think also this series is gonna go to 5. I mean, and you put it out great. I mean, all series are tied right now.
Absolutely. And of course, Phillies had a great comeback win there to win in game 2. Castellanos with the walk-off RBI to get it done. How about the Detroit Tigers winning today 3-0 on the road in Cleveland? I mean, could Detroit be in the ALCS? That would be mind-boggling.
Oh yeah, it will be the biggest upset in baseball this season.
I mean, Commercial Park in Detroit is going to be absolutely rocking for Game 3, I feel like. And then the Royals went in today and pwned the Yankees in Yankee Stadium. So the Yankees, I mean, I feel like they have all the pressure on them heading back to Kansas City.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. On you know Kauffman Stadium is going to be rocking it for Game 3. And Seth Lugo is going to take the mound. So he's an experienced pitcher uh, against Clark Schmidt. So Georgia native from Eckworth. So it's going to be interesting pitching matchup.
Absolutely. I almost feel like one of these upsets is going to happen, but I don't know which one. In the
Uh,
AL.
as I point out, my NLCS going to be between the Padres and the Mets, and my ALCS going to be Guardians Yankees.
I think I would stick with that too. I feel pretty good about that. I mean, outside of maybe Mets Dodgers, just because I feel like there's if Shohei Otani loses in the first round this year, man, would that be a tough pill to swallow for the Dodgers after all that money they sunk into him?
But for Padres fans, would be monumental.
Oh man, it would be. Definitely, we'll be keeping an eye on how the baseball series are going over the next few days. Also, we have the WNBA playoffs going on now. Obviously, with the Fever out, I feel like a lot of people ended up tuning out. But we still have the probably the most surprising update here is the Las Vegas Aces getting eliminated in the semifinals, and they had the MVP this year and Aja Wilson, and it just didn't work out for them. And we are in the New York Liberty, led by Brianna Stewart and Sabrina Ionesco, are awaiting the winner of the Connecticut Sun and the Minnesota Lynx tomorrow night at 8. I do think Minnesota will win this one, setting up a Minnesota-New York final, which I think New York will win.
I mean, I think it's going to be New York, Connecticut.
That would be a really close matchup there. Either way, I think the Liberty are the best team, and they're going to win. I can't wait to see what the Rangers are going to be like, though, when Caitlin Clark and Evelyn makes the WNBA Finals one day. That will be an event.
Oh, it's going to be nuts. It's going to be nuts.
Yeah, we'll see if the Fever can get there next year. Last American note, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. won Talladega yesterday. Chaotic. They had a 28-card big one. A lot of controversy over the damaged vehicle policy. Like, NASCAR needs to, I think, be more relaxed about this. Like, if a car can move and a team can fix the car, they should be able to fix it and put it back out on the track. That's the way it's always been in NASCAR. And people are fighting for points. If you can fix your car the fastest to get back on the track and gain a lot of points, I think you should be able to. I think NASCAR needs to really go back to the plan book on that. William Byron's the only driver to lock himself into the round of 8. They go to the Charlotte Roval this week, where 4 more drivers will be eliminated in the playoff system. And that's all I have for the American sports. What's going on down in South America in Brazil?
In Brazil, just the week 29 of the Brazilian Championship happened between last week and today. Palmeiras tied 0-0 on the road, and Botafogo wins. So now it's back to a 3-point lead for Botafogo, but Corinthians. I mean, I was there at Itaquera. I was in Itaquera, Corinthians Stadium. They were winning 2-1 up until the 95-minute, by stoppage time in second half. They conceded a goal, and they are back to relegation zone. I mean, it's getting tougher every week for Corinthians to avoid relegation. I mean, Corinthians, and we have a saying here in Brazil, is that it's easier for a fly to get out of shit than no. It's easier for a fly to get out of sand hole than for the elephant. What I mean by that is that it's easier for a small brand in soccer to avoid relegation because it's less pressure. They're used to fighting relegation than a big brand like Corinthians. You have all the media pressure, fan pressure. Now Corinthians' biggest sponsor, Sports Authority, the one that brought Memphis Depay, the Dutch player that played in big European teams, is my leave Corinthians because they are on the list of betting websites that will not be allowed to be accessed in Brazil coming up soon. So Corinthians is not only problems on the field but off the field. I mean, what a troubling time for Corinthians. So
Yeah, it just doesn't seem like I don't think they're going to avoid it now.
yeah, it really feels like kind of like what happened to Santos last season. That a team that stayed in the relegation zone or fighting to avoid relegation zone throughout the whole tournament. Everybody thought they were gonna avoid it, but at the end they didn't. And Corinthians are still in two cups, the Sudamericana and Brazilian Cup. So they're using all their roster they can to trying to compete in that. And their next game is against Atlético Paranaense, which is 2 points ahead in 15 plays. So it's a direct game against relegation. And now we're going to FIFA break. Brazil playing in the South American qualifying for the World Cup. Uh, they're playing, I believe, Chile on the road this weekend. Just have to confirm, but I believe it's going to be Chile on the road and Peru at home. So yeah, Chile on the road this Thursday, 9 p.m. Brazil time, and then on next Tuesday in Brasilia, Brazil's capital, against Peru on Tuesday. Last note, we had city elections this Sunday. Congratulations to re-elected Americana Mayor Chico Sardelli. 72% of the voting, complete landslide. So really dominating win for Americana current mayor Chico Sardelli, going for won his re-election. Is going to stay 4 more years until 2028.
Yeah, and hey, and also reminder all my Americans, not like any of y'all need a reminder. We're less than a month to elections here on November the 5th. So if you don't have a plan to vote, make sure you have a plan to vote. If you don't, if you've heard, but there's a pretty important election coming up.
Yeah. And but the biggest city in South America are going for a second round between current mayor Ricardo Nunes and left wing candidate Guilherme Boulos, internet sensation Pablo Marçal, that said throughout his whole campaign he was going to win in the first round. He's a little bit crazy. Try to research him after because he is a nutcase. Stayed in third place. So funny thing, Pablo
I mean,
Marçal.
we've got Senate congresswomen here who think that the government is controlling the weather. So
Oh no, no, there's nothing quite like Pablo Marçal. On Friday, he released a medical document that says that his opponent was using drugs and was admitted to a mental institution 3 years ago. That's
that is
how low
hilarious.
that's how low he went to. He forged a document saying that his political opponent went under psychiatrical treatment and drug treatment 3 years ago.
That is amazing. We need
Yeah,
more
he
of that in American politics.
Oh no, no, no. I will say, nah, for my opinion. I mean, just keep it on the issues. Not, I mean, we don't want a candidate who provoke another opponent so hard that he throws a chair at you. I mean, Marcel is one of a kind. I'll say that, but he at least he is a very vocal politician. I'll say that, but at least now he's out, and São Paulo is gonna have a second round. So let's see who wins the mayor of the biggest city in South America.
Yeah, we love our runoffs. We do love some
Yeah.
runoffs.
Oh yeah, we
But
do.
that's it for episode 150. 150. Thank you for watching us all this time. And we'll keep on trudging along here. From Americana, Sao Paulo, Brazil, that's Gustavo Tomazeli. I'm in Chattanooga, Tennessee, United States, and I am Nicholas Hill. Thank you so much for watching. 2 countries, 2 Americas, all sports.